Well, a very good evening yet again to yet another Black Opal Social in association with the Lord's Taverners. And what a panel we have tonight in various different parts of the world, including, of course, India, where Zak Crawley is waiting for us. Zak, welcome back to the panel and welcome back to Fitness. We've got Graham Gooch, I'm assuming somewhere in Essex, and Monty Panesar as well. Monty, where are you tonight?
I'm in Luton.
Luton. There are so many gags about Luton, but we just haven't got time. But nice to see him on. And of course, Gladstone. Gladys is with us yet again, still stuck in that hallway.
Not going anywhere anytime soon.
How about moving house? Have you tried moving house?
Still got a bar here, so that's working okay, mate.
Okay, right, gentlemen, very nice to have you all with us. Zak, if I come to you first, things are hotting up out there.
Yeah, they are. It's turned into a decent series. It's two tests play day night in our Meadowbad in front of 60,000 people. So I mean, it's all to play for,
to say the least. What's the current feeling in the camp then? Because we've had two very interesting games of cricket, two results polar opposites, nothing like a close game yet. So what's the feeling? What's the tactic? What's the plan?
Feeling's good in the camp. We played unbelievably in the first game on a good wicket, and if we'd have won the toss in the second game, we might be 2-0 up. It seemed as simple as that, really, and that's kind of the way we're looking at it. We're not looking too deeply into that second Test match. To be fair to India, they played very well, and they batted really well on that pitch. To get 600 runs, or whatever they got, was a great effort by them. But we're doing all the right things. We've won 3 out of 4 Test matches in the subcontinent now, and quite a lot of that's down to Joe Root scoring about 800 runs, but he doesn't look like he's going to stop anytime soon. So I think we're in a strong position going into the last two.
We'll talk about that in general terms. We'll enlarge on that in a moment or two. I mean, you're right. So far, the 2 games have gone, and it's not unusual, to be fair, not unusual in India. The 2 games have gone with the toss, with the side batting first, putting on runs, and the side batting second, always under some sort of pressure. Just looking ahead to Ahmedabad quickly, I mean, there is a feeling it's going to be a different sort of pitch, possibly. You've got a day-night game to play as well, which will make a difference as well. So yes, but how much are you feeling though? Is there going to be that sort of feeling when the toss goes maybe the wrong way, that you're already up against it?
I think you're definitely up against it. I think everyone knows that, but still, especially with the pink ball game, there's plenty to play for. I think it could be a bit more seamer friendly. Well, no one really knows actually how the pink ball game's going to go, so it's going to have to be judged on the day, really looking at the pitch. But people reckon it's going to be a bit more seamer friendly, which means that it might not be so much on the toss. But no, without a doubt, you can't lie about it. As soon as you lose the toss out here, you're up against it for sure. But I mean, that doesn't mean you're out of the game. You just have to play much better than the other team to stay in it, and that's the way you got to look at it, I suppose. But no, there's no doubt once you lose the toss, you're definitely behind the 8 ball. Now,
you've missed the first 2 games through injury, described as a bit of a freak injury, slipping over on the dressing room floor. How is that wrist? How's the damaged wrist now?
Yeah, it's getting much better, thanks. I'm back to training, and obviously we've got 6 days until the next match. So just got to prove my fitness in training, and I feel fairly positive about it. So I'll be doing everything I can to be fit, and if I am fit, then hopefully I can get some runs.
Well, slot in at number 3 again. Just talk us through it. How did it happen? Go on. Be embarrassed.
Well, I was one of the first ones out onto the ground, and I was one of the guinea pigs to test the marble floor, really. And I stuck one leg out and then stuck the other leg out, and both went flying up in the air and came crashing down on my arm. So I won't be doing that again. I'll make sure I sit on my seat before and let a few of the other lads go out first next time, I reckon. Just
and is it true is it true they put down carpeting after the event?
They did. They put down carpeting on the Indian dressing room before the event, but not our dressing room. So I mean, you can't blame them. Actually, you can blame them. I have blamed them quite a few times in my head. But
look, you've got to understand, when you go to India, places like that, to Chennai, You've got to tick the box. It's a bit like flying EasyJet. You've got to tick the box, extra carpeting, then you'll be fine.
Absolutely.
And I hear you saying just now you're not a skier, so you couldn't sort of adapt to sort of the techniques of skiing on ice.
No, hate skiing. Hate it even more now.
Anyway, okay, well, let's hope you pass these fitness tests then and are very much in contention to take over that number 3 slot again. Obviously, if selected for the start of the Ahmedabad test. Now let's talk to Graham. You're a man infamous for scoring runs in India under pressure, for working out how to make the runs that are needed against specifically spin. First of all, you must be admiring the way Joe Root has shown exactly the same sort of techniques or very similar techniques and has led the way. And secondly, do you have any extra advice to add to those like Zak who are about to take it on?
Yeah, well, you got to watch out for the bear traps that the Indian authorities will put in your way when you go to an India. I'm not sure a marble floor in a dressing room is a great idea. Lots of teams, when they used to come to Essex, used to complain about the wooden floor and getting splinters in the bottoms of their feet, but I've never heard of a marble floor before. No, my first thought actually for Zak and for you, David, and the audience is that I should imagine the Indians trying to work out how do you get it to spin under lights, first of all, okay, with a pink ball, because I can't believe that they're going to want any other sort of pitch than a spinning pitch. Because, it is a 50-50, the toss of a coin, who wins it. But generally, with night cricket, you bat first in the daylight, so that would be the same. But I imagine they would want the ball to spin, because I think the problem we've got some very good young players, but they have inexperience in these conditions. Joe has shown the technique and the way to go against the turning ball with the calculated sweep shots and, good defence back and forward. But these skills take a while to learn. And people like Dominic Sibley, Zak, if you don't mind me saying, Dan Lawrence, Ollie Pope, are starting out their journey as a player. So it's quite tough to learn in the environment of a test match, to be honest. So looking at that last pitch, you needed skill, you needed good shot selection to take the acceptable risk when necessary, and obviously you needed a lot of slices of luck as well, because the wicket taking ball, you hope you miss it or hits you on the body or goes past the edge. Doesn't always happen. So I think we're going to have our work cut out. I can't see how. I know the ball moves around a bit in the dark or under lights, but I can't see them producing any other wicket, to be fair, than like the last one, a result spinning pitch. Why wouldn't they?
If they do, you mentioned Zak there. We've seen Zak. Zak, to your credit, you already have a double 100 against Pakistan, albeit okay, it's Old Trafford, slightly different conditions. What do you think you've taken on board just watching, obviously inevitably watching while you've been injured? What have you taken on board from those first couple of games in terms of what you might do when you get out there, say, in a week's time?
Well, obviously I've had my plans against different bowlers, against Ashwin and that, and it all depends on how much it's spinning. And obviously the more it spins, then I'd probably look to sweep it more and things like that, and be a bit more proactive. Whereas if it was a really good wicket, then I'd probably just look to bat really low risk and bat all day. But so it depends on when I was out there. But it's very easy to get dragged into changing a few things when you have a couple of low scores, or you see the ball and you come up against a great side like India. But the only way I know how to play is the way that's got me here. So I'm just going to try and play the way that I've always played. And if it's not good enough, then I'll go back to the drawing board and try and come up with another plan for next time. But to do anything else other than the way I've played up until now would be naive, I think.
I would tend to agree with that. You can only start with what you've got, and back your stuff. You have surely. You've got the confidence from that big knock in the summer, which involved playing against one of the current, better leg spinners in the world. Okay, yes, these pitches, or that last pitch certainly. The first pitch wasn't too bad. The last pitch was a bit different. Obviously, produces different problems. Monty, let's come to you. Very nice to have you with us, as we said earlier. In terms of the spin bowling that you've seen from these first 2 Test matches, what have you made of the various talents on show there, both for India and for England?
Yeah, well, firstly, I want to say congratulations on your commentary gig with PSL. I think everyone will be looking forward to you back in the commentary box.
That's so kind. I just have to say that came out of the blue a little bit a couple of days ago. So I've had my COVID test. I've got a flight book. I have to pack a bag tonight because I've got a flight tomorrow. A couple of days quarantine out there. And if anyone's got any clues as to what happens in 2020, please let me know now before I get there. But no, Monty, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, well, dare I say, I'm sure everyone's looking forward to it in England. You know, you're back, and
I'll pay a subscription. Don't worry.
Okay, great. So yeah, in terms of the spin, I think Ashwin's obviously a very smart bowler. He changes the position of the seam. And if look, I can't really say anything to Zak Crawley. I think he should play the way he should play. He's an attacking player, and I think if anything, when I saw him play at Gower, when he went for that down the wicket shot, if you're going to hit it, and I remember, Graham mentioning that when you want to hit the ball for a 4, make sure it bounce into the boundary, so that's the right sort of trajectory and the elevation. That's the sort of stuff, if you're going to come down the wicket, then make sure you're fully committed to it, and you've got that trajectory right, the right elevation when you want to hit the ball over the top.
Okay, now what about, we know about Ashwin. I mean, he's a world-class bowler. We've seen lots of him over the years, and he will do what he does relentlessly day after day. India's spinners, obviously, in the second test, Akshar Patel, you just have to basically put it in the right place and you're going to get something from it guaranteed. Because the left arm wrist spinner. But let's just talk about our guys for a moment, because we know what to expect from India. Let's talk about Leach and, of course, Bess again, because Moeen, bless him, after all the troubles he's had with COVID himself and isolation, quarantine, getting back in the team, plays the test match, starts to sort of shake the dust off and get rid of the rust. And he's out of contention again with this rotation policy. So we're back to Leach and Best. Now, what's your advice to them in this coming game?
Yeah, I think with Leach, he's bowled really well. Once you get that stop delivery in that nice sort of area where he gets the ball to drift wider from the stumps. But I think once the Indian batsmen get used to that, I think he needs to change his position in the crease, maybe change the trajectory. He needs to be watching Ashwin, how he cleverly changes the seam positions. So, the ball either goes from 1 o'clock to, 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock, then it's like 8 o'clock, 2 o'clock, then they'll be really upright, change arm position. So you got to mix it up like that with the Indian batsmen, because, you look at, the England, the way we play, spin in this country is you go half forward or you go half back. You don't really go full out forward or right back, because you don't need to. The ball doesn't turn as much. There's a bit more pace on the pitches here, while they're quite slow there. So you either go right forward, and where the ball bounces and the distance between where the ball bounces and the bat, that needs to be at its minimum. You look at how Virat Kohli does that, or you go right back. If you go in between, that's where they're going to catch you. So you've got to really commit to that, these movements, which it's difficult for the young English batsmen. They're not used to that type of movement at the crease. So if someone like Zak in the next test match can adapt really quickly, then that's something will be really pleasing to see.
One thing I was going to ask you, with these 2 pitches we've seen so far, the first one did what you'd kind of expect for the first test of a series in India, which is start good, so flat enough for the first couple of days, progressively start to turn more, and which in many ways is many people's ideal of a pitch in terms of a 5-day test match. Second one obviously went big from very, very early on. For your preference, how much help did you like to have from a pitch? Obviously, no one wants a flat pitch which does nothing. But I know bowlers, and I'll talk to Graham in a moment, I know bowlers who didn't like it so much when it really exploded, because they sort of kind of lost control or they weren't quite sure what they were doing. Yeah,
it's you can get carried away with the turn and bounce, because most of the balls actually don't even hit the stumps or they beat the bat by a long way, and you only need a couple of balls to do that, and then it's like the non-turning delivery, really, where you don't get your fingers to go over the ball, you just let it go with the arm, and then you just turn you just need enough turn to beat the bat. And I think that's what the Indian spinners are doing really well. You see Akshar Patel, in that last Test match when he came on to bowl. He bowled wide of the stumps, slightly outside off stump where there was a bit more rough, got the ball to turn and bounce. And I remember John Embry said that to me. He goes, Monty, all you need is a couple of balls to turn. And then after that, it's about not turning as much. It's the non-turner, cross seam. They're the sort of deliveries that get you the wickets. So I think that's what, they've got to be wary of the English batsmen. They've got to think, it's going to turn big, but also be wary for that other one where they're trying to set you up for the non-turner, and they're trying to trap you in the crease. They don't want you to be, going at the ball or going right back. And sometimes it's good, if like someone like Ashwin, like what Pujara did, just go down the wicket, kick the ball, go back in your crease, break up the rhythm. That's the sort of proactive kind of batting I think, the English batsmen need to do, because I think they're just a little bit scoring from the crease, and eventually, they're gonna get you out.
Interesting you mentioned John Embry, because it was exactly him that I was thinking of when I started that question. Graham, of course, knows Knuckle, Embers, incredibly well. They were sort of bosom buddies all the way through the early days and through the England career. I mean, Knuckle was one of those who said he just wanted it to turn a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, he relied on accuracy and putting pressure on the batsman, making them think where they're going to score their next run. And he had great control. So John also, which you don't see many bowl it now, a lot of off spinners get drift now, but John bowled an arm ball as well, which you don't actually see a lot of the arm balls. You see some left armers bowl arm balls now, which sort of swing a little bit. So that was one of his weapons. So he relied on his accuracy, really. I think it's difficult to talk about how the players should play. I think Zak's exactly right. You've got to trust your own game. I think when you're playing spin, danger is when you commit too early. Generally, you have to wait, see the flight of the ball. You've got to watch the bowler when he's got the ball in his hand. You've got to watch the way the revolutions are going. You've got to familiarise yourself with how he holds the ball, his fingers and everything. And you watch the ball in the air, then you watch it off the pitch. Generally, you need to play off the back foot, and then you only come forward. I think when I talk, was taught watching people like yourself, David, Geoffrey Boycott, Keith Fletcher, all these guys. Of course, the difference when, for Zak's benefit, maybe when we played, I would play with bat and pad together. I don't know, I think probably you did as well.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I don't think you can do that now so much because of the DRS. I would generally, on a turning wicket, maybe try and play the ball with the inside half of the bat and the pad a little bit. Okay, I don't think you could get away with that. And I think the crucial thing is when you're defending against spin is you want to play forward, obviously, if the ball's up, but you've got to get position that split second before the ball arrives so that the ball hits the bat and you don't hit the ball, if that makes sense. So if you watch Dan get out in the last match, he's going hard at the ball. It might have got him out anyway, but he's going quite hard at the ball, and he punched it to bat pad. It can happen on that wicket. Of course it can. But generally the technique is to have a soft movement, and you're in position a split second before the ball arrives. So all the energy is out of your shot. It goes into your bat or pad or whatever, and it dies. That's a skill you can learn over a period of time. It's not easy to learn that instantly. And I know you are an expert at that. And you watch other people, and then from that, if you can develop that, obviously you're scoring shots. You've got to take a bit of risk if it's turning big, because you've got to put pressure on the bowler. You can't allow someone like Ashwin to dominate all the time. So using your feet as a right-hand batsman is an option. It has a bit of a risk if he bowls the carom ball, obviously, but acceptable risk, I would say. And what you've got to do is try and get a few men back on the boundary, okay, calculated. That's not just for scoring runs, but you've got to open up the one opportunities. He will have his catches, as we know, and if he's got a few on the boundary, you can't have them saving one as well. So that gives you an option to knock the ball around a little bit, because every spinner, every bowler, but particularly a spinner like Monty, he wants to bowl a set of balls at one player.
Yeah. I mean, Zach, I mean, Graham's absolutely right. All those years ago, you had the option to use a very different technique, but you've basically been brought up with the current mode of play because of DRS being prevalent and because you have to learn that really from the start of a career nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're taught to have the bat out in front. But even now, though, it's interesting you say that I was watching Crawley in that the other day, and I think those Indian players still do, to be honest, and they just back the fact that they're going to hit it. They still, because as Graham said, they're very soft in the way they defend. And the problem with getting our players, well, I've felt this before, where you're trying to get your bat out in front. Well, to get your bat out in front, you've almost got to push it a little bit. So I think it's like there's a balance in between. I actually think if you watch Crawley, I think he does still defend with his bat next to his pad. So I think it's still there. I think they just back themselves to hit it. And I think it all comes back to what you're most comfortable with. And the Indians pad away an awful lot of balls. I mean, they obviously the famous one in the last test was Rohit Sharma's one, which was clearly a leave. But that's by the by. But that happens an awful lot where they are playing at the ball. But they almost just play inside and pad it away, and they are playing. Pujara does it a lot, where he's playing a shot, but he just but on purpose he misses it.
Can I interject, Zach? I can tell you, in our era, that was the norm. I'm telling you now, and you talk to the spinners. John Embry, as Monty mentioned, I mean, never ever get a wicket because the bat was hidden behind the pad all the time. Absolutely. And there was no chance of an LBW.
No.
Very, very true.
Yeah. I think for the rest of the series now, I think they're going to be given out now after that one. So he might have ruined it for all of us, right? But yeah.
Well, they're going to be aware of it now, that's for sure. I mean, there were some very interesting, slightly awry decisions in that last game. Glad, I don't want to leave you just lurking in your hallway there for the rest of the night.
Well, when you talk about spin and batting, I'm
well, this is why.
Practice your run up in your hallway, can't you, Glad?
But it's not fit these days, Zappa.
No, Glad, I want to talk to you. I want to ask you a question, Glad, about, this is referring back to Ashwin's 100 in that second test, because I want to ask you a question about the freedom that a man who's not in the top 5 or 6 has to approach batting in those circumstances slightly differently. If Ashwin, for instance, he played brilliantly, it was a super knock, obviously, but you have that slight extra freedom down the order to take a few more risks. Do you not, Glad?
We sure have, particularly when you batsmen have messed it up at the top of the order.
Well, there you are.
Gives us a chance to let you know how you should do it. But the crucial part of that equation was that when Ashwin was doing his heroics, India already probably had a score that which they probably thought was beyond our guys getting the 4th innings of the match, and so he had that freedom to play, but which he took advantage of. Well, I mean, I've been thrilled. I've enjoyed. It's been brilliant viewing, particularly at 4 o'clock in the morning. To be honest, luckily I can't go out anywhere these days to be coming in at that time in the morning. But it's just been brilliant to watch a different form of Test match cricket, i.e., when the quality and the class of quality spin bowlers, and seeing how batsmen have to negate that and come up with a plan to, 1, to survive, and 2, better to score runs. And that's been brilliant to see. I know we probably have some questions, David, I'm sure, but obviously about the pitch and all that sort of stuff. But it's been brilliant viewing to see a Test cricket being played in those conditions.
Okay. Right, you mentioned questions, and we always take questions from our favourite audience, our lovely, faithful audience. And some of the names always crop up as I say, genuinely faithful, repeat audience. So there's a couple actually, and Zach, I'm also aware, Zach, that you need to get off to bed. There is a bit of a time difference apparently, and whereas we're just about to hit the gin and tonic, you're about to hit the pillow. So look, a couple of questions for you, Zach. There's one here from Amitu Sengupta, who actually has got all sorts of questions, very keen. But there's one here. Is there any technical change or just a change in approach for top order batters while playing the pink ball compared to the red ball? And that's a question primarily for Zak, maybe for Graham as well. So Zak, off on that one, please.
No, not particularly. I mean, the pink ball perhaps would swing a bit more over here than the red ball. But I think you can overcomplicate those sorts of things. And if I'm being honest, I think you just got to keep all those sorts of things the same. Would be my simple answer. I mean, the ball might swing a fraction more under lights as well, but that shouldn't change the way you play.
Actually, to be fair, I mean, to Zak or Graham, either one pick it. To be fair, if you're facing any bowler, say new ball bowler, I mean, number 3, you could easily be in there in the first over. But if you're facing anyone at the top, any sort of bowling at the top of the order, you never know whether it's going to swing a little bit, swing big, do nothing. And you're basically, if you're focused in the right way, I'll put this to Graham actually, you're just looking for each ball just one at a time, aren't you, to see what's going on?
Well, I think scoring runs is all about a one-ball game, isn't it? You play the one ball, you deal with the one ball, you draw a line under that one ball, and the next ball's the next game. And you deal with that, whether it's going to be a scoring opportunity, whether you're going to keep the ball out, whether you're going to leave it. I think with playing, you've got to know your bowlers a little bit as well. And both Ishant and the other guy whose name escapes me, Shiraz, what's his name? Shiraz, the other guy?
You're thinking about Barossa Shiraz.
Yes, Shiraz.
Mohammed Siraj, yeah.
They both look to reverse the ball, obviously. And I just generally think in my career, when I was up against swing bowlers, I'm always telling myself to play late, okay? Because the danger comes when you move too early, you get your pad in the way. That's when the LBW comes in. So against the swinging ball, you've got to commit to sort of waiting as long as you can. The old players would always tell you, play swing bowling off the back foot, play seam bowling off the front foot, and they're not wrong. You wait for the ball when it swings, because if you commit too early, you're in position. If the ball's swinging away from the right-hander, you know, you're going to play what we would call in our era the curtain row. I'm not sure whether Zak would understand what that means. The curtain row. You present your bat and then you follow the ball, okay, because you're in position. Okay, because you're in position too early. And of course, if it swings in, I'm a bit of an expert on LBW because Terry Alderman, I wore out 3 pair of pads against Terry Alderman. Okay, keep getting me out LBW.
That was just one test match.
I know, exactly. So you get your pad in the way. So you've got to play late. You've got to play late if the swinging ball, especially against a reverse swinging ball as well, because generally, the best 2 that we faced, Wasim Akram and Waka Yunis. I mean, the ball doesn't start to move really till it gets halfway, down the wicket, 2/3 of the way down the wicket, and that's why they picked up so many fifers. Because they just clean people out, once a new batsman come in. So you've got to deal with each ball individually. That's the way I would, I think that generally in any batting, each ball is a separate game.
Yeah, always good advice. Zak, I don't know how you are fixed for time, whether you just fancy an Ovaltine now, but there's a question here which is completely irrelevant, and it comes from, no doubt, the lovely Emma Farrer, who says, my question, Zak, is this. Would you like to play for Yorkshire one day? You can be as blunt as you like.
No, I wouldn't.
No, I mean, it's a very friendly county. And
No, I'm joking. I'd never say never. It's a great county.
I mean, okay, yes, there might be a language problem, but you'll get over that very quickly. Don't worry. They're very receptive. Depends if you like Tetley's or John Smith's, or it's all a question of the beer up there. Or as Graham will tell you, whether you know the right pubs close to Headingley.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you wouldn't have liked the Headingley pitch when we played, because it was a lovely pitch for Gladstone to bowl on, but I didn't until a couple of innings in the early 90s. I didn't go there with a lot of confidence in previous years, I can say.
You got one of the finest hundreds of all time against the West Indies there.
Yeah, we had a bit of luck that day, though. The ball went past the edge quite a lot that day, to be fair. But I mean, I like playing head-to-head. I mean, they are blunt people. I enjoyed my 4 years opening the batting with Jeffrey Boycott. You know, I learned a lot watching him from 22 yards. He was not everyone's cup of tea, and he would tell you what he thought. But if you're smart, you watched him closely and you talked to him, you learned a lot, you know, because he had a masterful technique, you know. So I think that's part of the game for a young player like Zak, if you don't mind me saying. You watch others, you pick up little bits from other people, you talk to people, and you evolve your game over time. And that's why it's going to be difficult for some of those young players in these last two tests, I think, because India, I mean, we need to win 3 tests to get to the World Championship final. They need to win 1 more, as I understand it. I don't know the scoring system. I haven't quite worked out how that's worked out.
No one knows the scoring system.
No, but they need to win 1 more game. So I can't believe they're going to produce flat wickets.
No, that's probably the truest thing you've said tonight.
Thanks, David.
No, I mean, I'm not dissing anything else you've said either. Zak, if you are needing to go, just let us know. If you're happy to stay, by all means, we'd love to keep you with us on the panel till you go. There is obviously coming out of that last test match in Chennai, the second test in Chennai, there's a lot of talk about that pitch. And I mean, for instance, there's a question we have here from Andrew Close. It says, do the panel think that there is anything wrong with preparing pitches for home advantage? So, Graham, you've just been on that very topic just now. It's been suggested, for instance, that the most recent test pitch was not fit for test cricket, yet India scored over 600 runs. We saw 200s. We saw Moeen at the end, albeit when the game was rather done and dusted, having a bit of fun as well and smacking it everywhere. So Graham, you keep the baton for now. What's your feeling about that last pitch and also the home advantage thing?
Well, I think when you go to the subcontinent, their bowlers are, experts in those conditions, and I think that they're the conditions you've got to expect, haven't you? I don't know. I think home advantage should be, when people come over here, they know they're going to get wickets that move around a little bit because of the climatic conditions in England. The Duke's ball swings and seams around for much, much longer. And that's why lots of teams struggle a bit over here, because the ball don't seam so much overseas. It swings a bit, reverse swings, but you don't get a lot of seam what you get over here. So I think that's fair enough. The question is, did they go too far? But, we've all been to India before. You see the wicket, it looks dry, it looks flaky, it's going to spin, and you've got to be prepared for that. And I think the important thing is, for any touring team that goes abroad, you've got to expect to get conditions which are home advantage, and you've got to turn that and spin that on its head and say, this is a challenge to my technique. This is what I practice for. This is what I work hard for. You can't be thinking, well, this is another Bunsen burner. This is a minefield of a pitch. If you think like that, you're 1 down before you start. You've got to turn it around and treat it as a challenge. And I think, it's very satisfying if you can score runs in bowler-friendly conditions, whether it's swinging around, seaming around, or whether it's turning. And that's the attitude you've got to have.
Zak, I don't know how freely you can speak, but what was the feeling in the dressing room about that pitch? I mean, for instance, when you saw what was happening on day one, what was the muttering in the dressing room like?
Well, yeah. So obviously, losing the toss was the biggest thing, and if we'd have won the toss and been way up in the game, I think the mutterings would have been slightly different. But I mean, it was a big risk that India took, and and if we'd have won the toss and gone 2-0 up, because they'd have had the bat last on that wicket, then I'm not sure there wouldn't have been much complaining from us. So it's one of those,
Sure.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we lost the toss and got beaten very, very easily, and you can understand our frustrations there. But like I say, if the toss goes the other way and we're 2-0 up, you wouldn't have had any complaints our end.
Monty, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I guess some people are questioning: is this a 4 Test match series or a 4 toss series? Whoever wins the toss tends to win the Test match, and Ahmedabad pitch could be a similar thing where it could be a turning pitch. And if England win the toss, then yeah, hopefully they'll make huge advantage on especially the first and the second day and get as many runs as they can. But yeah, the ball turning, on the first day, the way Moeen Ali bowled that beautiful ball to Virat Kohli, kind of, got everyone sort of speaking about the pitch. And I think some of the Indian fans reminded us of at Lord's when they produced a green pitch and it finished in 3.5 days. I think the question remains is that once we've seen some fantastic test matches, the one at the Gabba, when India won first time, there, and it's been 32 years since Australia lost a test match there. Then we saw a great draw at the Sydney, which went for a whole 5 days. So from a fan's perspective, I think, and also from the cricketers who are playing, I think they'll be much more challenged to play 5-day cricket, and it'll be disappointing to see if India produce the next 2 test matches and if they are spinning pitches, most likely India will probably find a way of winning. I would like them to sort of the test matches going into the 4th and the 5th day, which they have done actually in the past 12 months. And they shouldn't be afraid, from the England team, and I think there'll be a much more even contest, and I think people would respect India for thinking actually we're trying to make it tough for ourselves to win against England if we can on flatter surfaces.
Well, it's interesting. We always talk about a balance between bat and ball, a fair balance, and sort of the dream is something that does a bit for the seamers early on, flattens out, gets the batsman back in the game, and then turns towards the end of 4th day. So you have everyone involved at some stage, and all being well, a good close test match over 5 days. I was reading the Times this morning. Michael Atherton, who I respect immensely, mentioned some quite interesting stuff. Now, there's a fellow called Kartikeya Date who's done some research. Gladstone, pay attention here. This is all about you. The research goes like this. Since 2014 at home, in England, in other words, England have been bowled out twice in test matches 21 times. 13 times for fewer overs than in Chennai, 17 times for fewer runs than in Chennai. And the perception goes like this. People look at a spinning pitch like the one in Chennai and say, oh, it's a lottery, it's a minefield, it's impossible. How can they make a pitch like that? But when they have a seaming pitch in front of them, they say, oh, it's challenging. And you've used the word challenging tonight. So where is the truth? I mean, is there a difference? If you're at home and leaving grass on a pitch somewhere to favour your quicker bowlers, is that the same deal as being at home and backing your other strength, which might be spinners? So, well, Glad, what's your verdict on this?
I would say, quite simply, that has always prevailed in cricket wherever it's played, whether it be a school match, a club match. I mean, I once meant to play a game at Trent Bridge, in Nottingham, when they had Hadley and Rice, and you couldn't tell until the groundsman stuck the 3 sticks in the strip that we thought was going to be the pitch. You couldn't tell where it was going to be because they were obviously had prepared a pitch that to bowl. Actually, the Warwickshire team, the manager at the time, David Brown, Dennis Simmons, we refused to play. We actually started the game on the pitch that was being prepared for the Sunday League game the following day. But that's always prevailed. That's those kind of issues. So it is part and the challenge of the game. What obviously India is reason. India have said, okay, you've got your spinners, we've got our spinners, but we back our spinners to be better, to perform better than yours, and we back our batsmen to get runs against your spinners. And watching the test matches as we all have done, and obviously the commentary we have now is what I've noticed is, and Monty, please comment on this, is the speed of the Indian spinners. They tend to be bowling a good sort of 4 or 5 kilometers an hour quicker. The ball seems to leave their hands that little bit quicker than our guys, which obviously means a couple of things in my poor batting sense. One, that to get down the pitch to cover that spin is tough because it's not flighted as high in the air because they've got more speed and even me, I know the more revs you put on the ball when you release it, then the more chance it has to dip and grip and turn. So is that something that our spinners probably need to be looking to? You're one who bowled it quite quickly, didn't you, Monty?
Yeah, I bowled it with a bit more pace than maybe some of the the other spinners generally, because I had obviously longer fingers, and I was able to still get spin with a quicker pace. And I think you're absolutely spot on. Ashwin, I think, bowled over 40% of his deliveries above 90 sort of kilometers, and I think that's something that Moeen Ali, even Jack Leach, didn't look to do. And that's something you could see in Joe Root's reaction when he came on to bowl on the first day. He was being very proactive, lowering his arm, changing his pace, and then when he saw the turn and bounce off that pitch, you can see in his reaction thinking, what are my spinners doing? We should have bowled India out under 250. They've got 100 runs too many there. So from that point of view, I think Jack Leach and the likes, probably Don Best, will get a chance in this game. They've got to be a bit more sort of proactive, and assess how the Indian batsmen are playing. Bowl it slower, bowl it quicker. Take a break out of the game. Go and bowl over the wicket, round the wicket. Study how Ashwin is bowling, how Akshar Patel is bowling. They're becoming sort of very predictable. Jack Leach sort of just keeps bowling the same ball over again. I haven't seen him bowl an arm ball or a non-turner or anything like that. And that's what kind of, I think, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, there must be some of the senior players coming up to him and say, look, we've got to be a bit more clever and astute in how to bowl in these conditions.
Can I just come in there, David?
Okay, yeah, go on, Graham. Yeah.
Just quickly. Firstly, I'd like to pump Monty's tyres up slightly. In 2012, when we played out there, they produced turning wickets. He didn't play in the first test, and he should have. Ojar, Ashwin, Swan, and Monty. Monty was the best bowler on show in that series. Okay, bowled it quicker, bowled his normal style, and the wickets suited. And the Indian batsmen struggled, Tendulkar included. So I agree with what he said, but I just have to come in. The spin bowler, if it turns, is expected to do well. He just has to handle the pressure, obviously, because there's pressure on the spin bowler that he's expected to get wickets. But let's make no mistake, and I'm not trying to add pressure to Zak, and I hope he plays next week, and he's a very exciting young batsman and got hopefully a magnificent career in front of him. It's the batsman, if it turns square, it's the batsman who's going to win you the match. Because if you get the score on the board like England did in the first test, and India got 300 plus in this last test, that's where the game's won and lost, not with the bowlers, I'm afraid. It's the batsman who can handle the conditions, play the innings, which is a mixed innings, which you would play the sweep and the slog sweep, David. You have to work out what shots you're going to play, what risk you're going to take, how you're going to defend, how you're going to plan the innings. You need the slices of luck, obviously.
Yeah.
But they're the players who win you the match, I'm afraid, if it's a result pitch. And the same goes. The same goes if it swings and seams around. It's exactly the same. It's no different. It's the people who get the runs that will put you in position. Now, on a flat wicket where it's not doing much, it's the opposite way around, isn't it? Your Jimmy Andersons of this world are the ones who win you the game, because if they pick up 5 on a flat one, they're the ones who change the game.
Yeah, all good points. Monty, coming back to you, and as I said earlier, we do get questions from our audience. You've answered already, actually, a question from Richard Shelley, which was about the pace that Ashwin was bowling, which was quicker than most of the other spinners in that last test match. So you've answered that one. He also asks, are you flying out to India next week, Mont, to be part of the England setup? And if so, what's your role going to be?
Well, yeah, I think, hopefully we'll get the visa sorted out, because they open on the 20th of Feb, the Indian embassy. But yeah, we're going away, I think KP and a few of the other players will be there as well, where it's a retired England 11 against all the other nations. So India, West Indies, South Africa will all turn up, and we'll play like a T20 tournament. I've missed this. Yeah, so if with the India team, Tendulkar will be there as well. So that'll be the big
strangely, neither Graham, Gladstone, or I seem to have got the invite. I don't know what's going on.
Do you fancy a game, Danubo? Can't believe that.
Okay. For the benefit of the Lord's Taverners watching this program, as it were, they know damn well that in Cape Town in March, I overcame something like 27 years of resistance to strapping the pads on. to make a magnificent 5 against Western Province Cricket Club, opening the innings with your mate Gag, with Paul Pritchard, with your former opening partner in Essex. And Pritch, as captain of the Taverners, was very keen, especially about 11 o'clock the previous night after a good night out, that I opened the batting the following day. And I'm afraid I caved in. I put the pads on, put the dark glasses on, prescription lenses, put the white floppy hat on, and made a magnificent 5. And confirmed to myself that actually that decision I took 27 years previously, not to do that silly things like that, was actually the right one. So actually, no, Monty, you're on your own. Good luck. You're on your own. We're not coming.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, yeah, I'm still here. Like, it's, you know, I'm sure everyone's sort of, when they talk about, I remember Nasser Hussain saying who are the 5 top greatest batsmen English cricket produced. I think we've got 2 here in the room. So
very kind, very kind.
And it's not Gladstone Small.
No, what do you mean it's not Gladstone Small? He keeps telling us all about his runs.
I saw your innings in Cape Town, mate. You were actually out twice in those 5 balls.
Well, yeah, once there was no argument about it. Bowled, inside edge, a little unlucky, played a little early. And the first ball decision not to give me LBW, I would have referred it. Without luck, I suspect.
David,
it's the only time I felt like WG Grace, because the umpire actually said, hang on a second, I want to watch him bat. So there we are.
You did a Virat Kohli.
David, can I ask Zak a question, David?
Yeah.
Quick question. Zak, as a Chris Silwood, obviously I know from Essex, and I helped put him in place at Essex. Do you think the selectors have given any consideration to if the conditions are like we have been talking about? I know playing under lights is going to help the seam bowlers, so Anderson, I suspect, will probably play. Have they given any consideration, do you think, to playing just Stokes and Anderson, an extra spinner, or even an extra batsman? So just two new ball bowlers, Stokes and say Anderson, and then playing an extra batter, or I don't know whether you have another spinner now that Moen's gone home, actually. So is that an option or not?
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest. If I was to have a guess myself, I would say probably not. I would have thought they would go with 2 seamers and 2 spinners, and then because Joe Root bowls very good spinners himself actually these days, so I would say they probably would go with two seamers. But that's a lot of that's way.
When you say 2 seamers, you're not including Ben Stokes in that.
No, two out and out seamers. I'd say two new ball seamers. I'd say maybe in these conditions they might go with 1 fast bowler, because we've got a few of them floating about now, and then 1 of Anderson Broad. But I wouldn't know, to be honest. That's way above my pay grade.
You see, I just think as an ex-captain that Ben Stokes is a very good bowler, and in those conditions, which is quite hard work, he gets the ball to reverse. He's not getting any overs at the moment, and I think he's underused, and he could be a handy opening bowler, and you could find another place for someone else, because I'm not sure if there's going to be spinning conditions. There's enough bowling for 3 seamers, I'm afraid.
He doesn't look very fit, but Ben Stokes, whenever he's bowled, he always seems to be pulling up quite sharpish in his follow through. So either he's not bowling enough to get used to bowling, or he doesn't seem fit enough to be the main bowler, bowling say 20 odd overs in an innings in a test match. That's my.
Well, okay. Here's another thought. I mean, if you've got your 2 main seamers, because balance again, talking about balance in another context before, balance with the cricket team. When we went all those years ago, it tended to be what you might call the traditional balance. So a couple of out-and-out seamers, all-rounder, and a couple of spinners. I mean, my tour in 84-5, we had Edmonds and Pocock as the spinners, and they did the perfect job, keeping control at times when the conditions weren't right for the seamers. So that's how you look at balance in a cricket team. And then if you've got people who can fill in, like Joe Root can, you can get through your overs in the day and try, first of all, to keep control, which is the first thing. And then, of course, obviously to bowl the side out if you possibly can. So you've always got that option. And this is possibly looking ahead, the perfect time to have what you might call a perfectly balanced team.
Yeah, fair enough. I just think Ben Stokes is underused, and Gladstone might be right, but generally I think on turning wickets I played on, I mean, it's always handy to have 3 seamers, obviously, but generally you need 2 strike bowlers, okay? People who take the new ball, someone you can throw it to come on and bowl 3, to give me 3 or 4 overs, maximum pace, try and nick a wicket or whatever. They're not going to do the bulk of the bowling if it's a spinning wicket.
Yeah. So a question from Ian Chester about that possible lineup for the 3rd Test match. If you're having your 2 out-and-out seamers plus Ben, who are your 2? Because he's wondering, is it Broad and Anderson because of the lights, because of the experience, obviously the 2 best bowlers, 2 most experienced bowlers in the squad, or you back to Archer again with, I guess, probably Anderson.
I think you need a bit of pace. You need one of your guys to be a bit of get us around the 90 mph mark in India on those, because it's not going to have. Okay, it's going to be dark, but it's not going to be a green. It's not going to be a green top. Yes, the swing might comes in. I mean, I believe they're using the Indian ball, the Shrey.
SG ball.
Yeah, so it's not going to be it's interesting actually how much light. I mean, we all know that in India, as soon as the sun goes, it gets quite dark. There's not a lot of twilight.
It happens in every country in the world.
Well, actually, we have a long twilight here. In England, we get a long twilight. That's why floodlights don't work that well in this country.
Sure.
As the sun goes, it's dark. So that there might come a situation where half the batting innings could well be in what we call proper darkness.
Yeah, sure. Zach, what's your preference? I mean, if for instance, if you were opening the batting for India, who would you rather not see against you in Ahmedabad?
Well, gee, I wouldn't want to see any of them really. I mean, it's
Tough question.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one for me. I'm playing with all the lads, so I can't answer that.
Sorry, they're not listening. They're in bed. We're not giving any secrets away. Let's face it. I mean, if Graham and I were playing nowadays, we'd look at Jimmy and think, here's a man with incredible skill with a swinging ball, and the swinging ball gives you nothing. Broad has grown in stature. I mean, and Archer, let's face it. Whatever you say about the 80s and the Holdings, the Roberts, the Garners, the Crofts, the Marshalls, the Daniels, and the rest of them, Archer has this lovely talent of being able to bowl the ball rapidly, but apparently effortlessly, which is, it's a huge talent to have.
Agreed.
So anyway, we'll dodge that question. Let's see who else has got questions for us. See what else is coming up. David and Graham, did either of you play in a test over there where we lost the toss and still won? Winning was a tricky. We did win a couple.
We won in Madras in 81.
Yeah.
I think that's the only test I won in India, actually. Oh, no, in the Jubilee test, we won that.
Jubilee test we won in 80.
Yes.
81 too. We didn't win any, did we? We lost the first one. The rest were
no
innings draws. 84-5 when you.
I think you're right. You're right. We lost the first one. There was 5 draws after that. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
84-5. I know we won 2-1. Thank you very much. Great captaincy. But I can't remember who won the toss. I know we lost in Mumbai, having probably lost the toss.
Did we win the toss in
Delhi?
In
I think we must have lost the toss in Delhi. Had to bat second, and in Madras in Chennai again. We'll have to look it up. It's I never remember the toss, for Christ's sake. Anyway, right, okay. What else have we got from our questioners at large? We've done the 3rd test and the bowling lineup a little bit. Joe Root, should he bowl himself more? Zach, you can answer that one as you big up your captain while I'm looking for other questions.
Yeah,
I've got a question for Zach. I've got a quick question for Zach. Pink ball, Zach. When I've been down to Essex and watch the games with the pink ball and whatever, it just don't sound right on the bat. Is it different? It sounds a bit plasticky, It sounds like, I know this is a different make ball, so it might be different, but when you hit a machine ball, it has a different, sound on it. And that's when I've been to watch pink ball cricket in the evening, it just doesn't sound like the pink ball. Does it behave that much differently?
Yeah, it definitely comes off the bat differently, to be honest. It comes off harder, quicker, almost like a white ball. I always find the white ball comes off a lot faster off the bat than a red ball. And the pink ball is kind of in between. It's also quite hard to pick up, actually. I mean, compared to the red and the white, it's like that in between colour. It's not as easy to pick up during the day. I'm talking about in the field now. So, I mean, as a batter, obviously, you're fine with the side scoop and that. But it's, it definitely differs from red ball quite a bit in the field. And then when you're batting, yeah, like I said, it's definitely harder ball and comes off the bat with more pace.
But does it deteriorate? Okay. Does it deteriorate?
I've only played in 2 pink ball games, and they've both been very short games where the bowlers have skittled the batting side. So I don't know. I've done much fielding with it, but I from what I've heard from other games is that it does deteriorate quite quickly and goes quite soft. It doesn't move as much. But I haven't played in those games. I've only done it when it's done all sorts. But that was at Canterbury, to be fair.
Okay, folks, we're starting to run out of time, so it's now time for the quick fire round. There's a couple of questions very similar, one from Ruth Brooksbank and one from Brian King about the crowds. We had crowds in for the first time in that second test match. Zak, how much of a difference does that make to the atmosphere? And do you think it helped Virat, the way he was trying to rev them up?
Oh, it made a massive difference to the atmosphere, for sure. And I think it helped India quite a bit, actually. It definitely helped them in the field. Whenever it got slightly flat, Virat just seemed to wave his arms, and then 20,000 Indians would just scream at the top of their voice. So I mean, it definitely helped them in the field, and I think it got them a couple of decisions actually as well. It's very tough for the local umpires to give a not out when there's 20,000 Indians screaming. So maybe we should be given one more on the DRS just to make up for it.
You got it easy. You got it easy to when we played.
Yeah. Yeah. There was no DRS to overturn dodgy decisions, and there were 5 times that many people in the ground as well. So
yes.
I mean, I've said it's brilliant. I've said the whole. I've always enjoyed just the whole experience of being in India. I mean, it's just an extraordinary place to be, and especially in the 30, 40 years ago, imagine the differences then. We're almost there, but there's one very key question here from Gary Miller for Graham. He just wondered if you're hosting the session from your snooker room. Is that the scoreboard in the back behind you?
It is a snooker scoreboard, yes. It's not a snooker room.
But you're not admitting to a snooker room?
No, I have a vintage dining room table, which is also a snooker table. So it's a table, believe it or not, that was made in 1933, and under where I'm knocking it down there, you might be able to see it there. It's there. It's a snooker table, but it stays put away most of the time.
Oh, what's your highest break? What's your highest break?
No, don't even go there. Don't even go there. No, you need a
Let me
short.
see. One red, one black, 8.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Actually, another question, which actually is a very relevant one, away from snooker tables and scoreboards and Gladstone's hallway. Just a quick mention about Ben Folkes, because he is an absolutely lovely keeper. And it's just highlighting. I mean, this whole rotation thing, which luckily this week we haven't got time to go into in great depth. This whole thing about keepers having to bat, the opportunities. We know that Jos Buttler is a super talented cricketer. He gets the gloves and gets to make runs. We know that Ben Folkes has to wait for an opportunity like this when the rotation policy kicks in and he gets a chance. But I have to take my hat off to him, because every time he gets his chance, he seems to take it.
Do you want me to come in there?
Who wants to pick up? Actually,
I'll start it off. Well, I think firstly you've got to say that England have got lots and lots of talented players, haven't they? I mean, Jos Buttler, Johnny Bairstow, Ben Folkes. I mean, they could all do that. They all do the job, if they were asked. And he's a bit unlucky Ben Foakes, because he got some other cricketers who are excellent Test cricketers, excellent international cricketers in front of him. You know, Joss Butler's a real star, and I think he's batting in the longer form game. He's found a style and a mode that suits him in Test cricket now, and it's difficult to dislodge him. So all Ben can do is, when he gets the chance, is get as many as he can, keep wicket like he can, and maybe a doorway will open for him somewhere. That's all you can do, isn't it? And it's difficult for a keeper, isn't it? Because only one position. That's the problem.
Indeed.
I mean, that's why
yeah, go on.
That's why we let him go at Essex, because we had James Foster. He played a year and a half in our first team as a batsman, but obviously he was going to graduate as a wicketkeeper as well. We didn't really want to let him go, but we couldn't stand in his way. So I hope he does find a place in time, but better to have a choice like England has than to be looking around thinking, who am I going to play?
Zak, a final word from you. It must be very frustrating for someone like Ben, who, in one of the headlines during that last Test match was along the lines of, he is the best keeper in the world, and yet his opportunities are kind of limited.
Yeah, no, it must be frustrating for him, and but you'd never know it seeing him around the group. He's a great bloke, and he works incredibly hard at his keeping. He catches more balls than I've ever seen any keeper take, and so it's no surprise that he's such a good keeper. And he works extremely hard in his batting as well, and he showed in this game what a class batsman he is as well. People often don't give him that because he's so good with the gloves, but he's a phenomenal player, and it just shows the strength and depth we've got at the moment across all parts of the game. And I think that's the sign of a great side. If you look at the great Australian side, and the second team that they had was could have beaten most international sides in the world. And if you look at the England bench at the moment, there's some great players on that bench, and with the keeping department's no different from that.
All right. On that note, time is up, I think, for this evening. So, Zak, thank you very much indeed for joining us from your hotel room. You may now go to bed.
Thank you.
And practice your skiing techniques. Monty, hope you get your visa. I hope you have fun out there and just play well. Just do what you do, and keep twisting that ball past the outside edge of Indian bats. Graham, very nice to see you again. Very nice to talk. We'll do it again, I'm sure, at some stage here or elsewhere. Gladstone, as ever. Good luck redecorating that hallway before the next attempt. And to all of you who've been with us here tonight, on behalf of Black Opal and Lord's Taverners, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and a very good evening.